Hello everybody and welcome to another video here today. I'm bringing you something a little bit different than I brought you in the past, but it's a deck that's been kind of taking Modern by storm in a way, not obviously as Shadow or something like that, but it's a deck that hadn't had much exposure in the past, and all of a sudden it's, growing to nearly 2% of the metagame, last I checked. So with that said, let's jump right into it. So this is Blue-White Control. It's not a tap out version like a lot of you may have seen in the past. It's more or less kind of a mix of the two. So you do have some tap out elements where you obviously tap out on your turn. It's not draw go. You play cards like Serum Visions and Spreading Seas, as well as Detention Sphere to handle non-land permanents that can cause you a lot of trouble that blue-white has some trouble actually dealing with, like Liliana of the Veil or enchantments and things like that. Second here, let's talk about the counterspells. So blue-white is usually known for going really heavy on the counterspells, but what we have here today is not that many in the grand scheme of things. So we're running 2 Spell Snare just because Spell Snare is fantastic at countering the early game, especially when you're on the draw. And then we also have 2 Mana Leak, just because Mana Leak really helps bridge the gap between the early game and the late game. You need to be able to interact with your opponent in between, because you can't just play one spell on turn 1 and then a spell on turn 4 and expect to be in it. So it's just something to bridge the gap. Negate is similar to that, but it does have some more utility in the late game. And is very, very helpful in dealing with non-creature permanents, because we actually have a pretty good way of dealing with creature permanents in many different ways. And then Logic Knot is going to be our other counter of choice, simply because as the game progresses, we do tend to fill our yard, and we don't actually rely on our graveyard all that much. So it's okay to exile some of it later down the road. It just makes it kind of like the 3rd Mana Leak, but better in the late game. And then, of course, we're running Cryptic Commands, because what kind of blue deck would we be if we didn't run Cryptic Command? It's one of the best blue cards out there, one of the best reasons to be heavy in blue. It's just once you get to the late game and can cast this card, you just gain such a large advantage over your opponent. So that's our counter spells. Let's talk about our removal a little bit. So 4 Path to Exiles is pretty standard. You need a hard way to deal with some of your opponent's creatures. Condemn is kind of a meta call because of Death Shadow. It's just so powerful against Death Shadow that it's. I've seen some lists run 2. I'm gonna stick with 1, just because the meta is kind of evolving to either hate Death Shadow or beat Death Shadow. So I don't want to go too all in on the hate Death Shadow plan. But it's 1 card that has utility in some other matchups as well. So we're gonna stick with that. We've got a Blessed Alliance in there as well, just because it gives us some game against Eldrazi's that have a pretty big butt. It's hard to get rid of them, and also deal with Reality Smashers. We don't have to discard a card. The life gain also helps in the aggressive burn style matchups. We already talked about Detention Sphere, but it's, like I said, it's just another removal spells that deals with Planeswalkers, enchantments, artifacts, cards that we really have a hard time dealing with outside of Cryptic Command. We're only running 2 Snapcaster Mages. We do not rely that much on our graveyard in this type of build. I've seen some lists run 3, but we're going to stick with 2, because while Snapcaster is great, we don't have like cheap spells like Lightning Bolt to flash back and get aggressive with. So it's kind of just this late game anything card in a sense. We're running 3 Supreme Verdict because Verdict is also one of the biggest reasons to be blue-white. It's just such an efficient way to deal with your opponent's board that in the matchups that it's good in, it's amazing. And of course, the matchups that it's bad in, it feels pretty bad. But that's why we're only running 3. There's some lists that run 4 that go all in. I think that's a little too aggressive. But it could be the right meta call to go for 4 verdicts. Then we have our kind of how to win the game package. So Jace, Architect of Thought, while it doesn't necessarily win the game on the spot, it can generate so much card advantage over the course of the game that it basically wins you the game. Gideon Jura is going to be our main way to actually close out a game in terms of damage. So it can +2 fend off some creatures. Then you can sweep the board next turn and start swinging. It can also just actually destroy creatures. So it's not like a dead draw off the top. It can actually protect itself and handle the board pretty efficiently. What's important to note here is that I've actually made this mistake, I think, like, twice while I was practicing. When you 0 and you make him a 6/6 human soldier creature that's still a planeswalker, it says prevent all damage. It does not say that he's indestructible. So be careful, because he can still be destroyed by cards that say destroy, target creature or, something like that. So just be careful. He's not as indestructible as he seems. Now, Lightning Bolt won't get him while he's a creature, but, Terminate or things like Hero's Downfall would get him. Not that Hero's Downfall sees any play, but you get the point. Just be careful. Don't make that mistake like I did. Elspeth Sun's Champion, once again, just another finisher. It really, really closes out the game against a lot of decks. Just creating 3/3 1/1s every turn that can both block and start attacking. Especially at her 6 CMC with 5 loyalty after that, it's very hard to deal with her. And then last but not least, Sphinx's Revelation. Once again, another really powerful blue-white card. Another good reason to be in blue-white. It's just a late-game card draw engine that also gains you life and helps you stabilize against aggressive decks. So that's why, I would not leave home with, at least one of these in your list. With that said, we're running 25 lands, 4 Celestial Colonnade. And here I want to talk about one of the big reasons to be in blue-white. What's so great about this deck? It seems like it has kind of a lackluster early game and kind of a fragile late game, but that's not it at all. I mean, you can call it what it is in that it's a meta call for what's happening in the metagame right now, but this deck will punish the greediest decks that are in the format right now. Take Death Shadow. Spreading Seas plus Ghost Quarter, they don't actually run that many sources that produce color. So you're going to basically shut them out of the game very quickly. Similarly, Eldrazi Tron, regular Tron, all of those decks are really popular right now. And we have 8 main deck cards that truly hate part of their main strategy. And that's not even counting, Supreme Verdict and Detention Spheres and Path to Exiles that also hose their strategy. And then we play this top end of Planeswalkers that are actually very hard to deal with from their end. So it's very, very, I don't want to say easy, but it's very, very easy to stabilize and then take over the late game against some of the more popular decks in the format, which is why we're running this deck. And even the burn matchup, while it can be kind of a struggle in the early game, it's very easy to get back in it, and then post-board we have, a lot of tools to handle that. But with that said, the deck is fantastic. Mana Denial is really strong right now. There's a lot of greedy decks that are top tier, and that's what we're aiming to do. We're aiming to punish them for basically playing 3-4 colors, or this combination of lands that produce a lot of mana, or things like that. So that's the goal. That's kind of what this deck is designed to do. That's not to say it doesn't have game against other decks. It's going to be a generally consistent deck across the board, but it just gives you a lot of game against the top tier decks right now, which is why I think it's a pretty good deck to be playing right now. So let's take a look at the sideboard. The sideboard is pretty interesting. So let's take a look at some of the obvious ones first. So Stony Silence handles artifacts that are really difficult to handle, like when Affinity tries to go wide and smack you, you shut down all their artifacts. Lantern Control as well gets shut down by Stony Silence, and even, there's some splash damage against Tron. The new Eggs deck really gets hosed by that. Rest in Peace is going to be our graveyard hate of choice. At the end of the day, we actually don't really care about our graveyard all that much. So it doesn't hurt us that much to exile our graveyard completely, and there's still a good amount of graveyard decks in the format. Even Death Shadow relies on their graveyard a fair amount, so being able to exile graveyard is really important right now. Celestial Purge is going to be also a very important card, simply because it can exile cards like Blood Moon, Liliana the Veil, the Delve creatures from Grixis, Shadow, and then Death Shadow itself. So Celestial Purge just handles a lot of permanents that we would otherwise have a tough time dealing with, and we can also bring it in the mono red matchups because it still does some good work there. Timely Reinforcements is going to be how we try to hate out burn. We do see a fair amount of the cards in our deck. I mean, we have eight draw spells, we have Cryptic Command, and we have Sphinx's Revelation over there. So we do have a good amount of chance of finding these sideboard cards that really can swing the tide in a lot of matchups. So let's continue. We have Dispel and Negate. Those are going to be our two sideboarded counterspells of choice. Something because Dispel is just very powerful in a lot of different matchups, and Negate is just another way to kind of a catch-all counterspell against combo or non-creature decks. That really helps a lot. I'm going to talk about Crucible Worlds before I get to this package over here. But Crucible Worlds really helps again in the Tron matchups and the Control matchups. Even the mid-range matchups, like you can bring it in and you're going to ensure to hit a land drop every turn. And you can basically lock your opponents out of the game with the Ghost Quarter. Just blow up all their lands in the late game, and then just take over. Alright, now we're heading towards the creature control package, in a sense. Vendilion Clique is just a really powerful card. Flash it in, disrupt your opponent, beat face. It's just, I've talked about it a lot in my previous videos. Vendilion Clique is a card that I would never ever not play in blue decks right now. Even if it's 1 in the 75, it's a really, really good card in a lot of matchups. And then we have 3 Spell Queller. Now, I've had a lot of comments in the past, people are going to say, but you play, 3 Supreme Verdict. That seems like a really, really horrible, way to play. You just sweep up your own Spell Queller, you lose, your opponent just gets back their spell, and you're basically down on card advantage. Well, the point of Spell Queller is that it's going to come in to matchups where Supreme Verdict is basically dead. That's going to be in control matchups and in combo matchups. So I wouldn't bring in Spell Queller, anywhere else that I can think of. Spell Queller and Supreme Verdict are very rarely going to conflict in your deck. And if they are conflicting, you probably did something wrong during sideboarding. So just, Spell Queller, what's great about Spell Queller is you can flash it in, whether you can exile a spell or not with it, and you can disrupt and then just apply pressure. Because during combo matchups, we have a very difficult time of actually applying pressure and closing out the game. Spell Queller allows us to flash our pressure in while disrupting and then attacking and then keeping up more counter magic during our turn. Just to actually clock our opponent. Otherwise, we're just sitting there, amassing our counter spells, and eventually our opponent's going to have a critical mass of action that we can't deal with. So it just helps us be a bit, not proactive, but aggressive. And that's going to be important in those matchups. So that's a rundown of the deck, more or less. As we always do, we're going to run it through a modern competitive league and see how it does. I'm actually really excited to test this out. I actually spoke to a few people from the Blue-White X community and sort of building this deck and fleshing it out based on the success of the recent builds, and it's I'm really looking forward to testing it out. We even got the seal of approval from Shaheen Soorani, who is well known for playing blue-white or Esper style decks in a whole range of formats. Actually, he's a fantastic control player, and he I will quote, digs this list. So I'm definitely looking forward to trying this out. Also, thank you to Francesco, Amati. He also helped me sort of talk through this deck, tune it a little bit, and he's playing a very similar list. And he also has a podcast that talks about Blue-White X control decks in Modern. So if you're really interested in that color combination in Modern, I'm going to definitely leave the link in the description below. And be sure to check that out, because it'll really give some insight both to new and old players alike. So yeah, thanks for watching the deck tech, and I will see you soon in the first round. Alright, welcome to the first match here with blue-white control. We won the die roll. So let's play. Got first match jitters here, but I think it's a keep. We got turn 2 mana leak, turn 1 condemn if we need to, if it's like a burn matchup, so we'll make sure to play Flooded Strand here. We actually have both of our Hollowed Fountains in hand, which is not great, because we only play 2. So we don't actually have any fetchable duels with these lands. But I still think we play Flooded Strand first, just in case we need to fetch up basic planes for the burn matchup. Alright. Let's see what we're up against when our opponent decides to take that stuff. Alright, there we go. Cool. Alright. We're off to the races. Land go. Basic mountain. Blessed Alliance should be pretty good here too. So this is what we planned for, right? Heads up plays are important. Anywhere we can save some life is going to be good for us. Not land. Gideon. Actually, that's not bad. It'll give us something to play towards. Inspiring Vantage. Alright, no play from our opponent. That's fine. You want to go ahead and upkeep like a Boros Charm? Cryptic Command is a really good draw. It's like a Skullcrack of Magma Jet. You know what? I am 100% okay with Magma Jet. I mean, even though it fixes their draws, it is pretty bad damage in terms of mana efficiency. So they went bottom, so I guess it did something for them there. But that's a good sign for us. It means they're not drawing what they want to be drawing. And we can save our mana leak for something that just deals far more damage. And this Blessed Alliance effectively puts us at a pretty high life total. So our opponent's thinking, do I tap out for Eidolon? Eidolon is alright, nope, no Eidolon. And we're just gonna say fine. We'll say let's play this game. Island, interesting. That means we have Cryptic up if we want to. I think I'll just go ahead and get this Hollowed Fountain out though, because I think if we want to counter something, it's going to be with Mana Leak. And I don't think we're going to need to do Blessed Alliance plus Mana Leak this turn. But I would definitely counter like a Boros Charm, you know? Alright, they have 5 spells. Spell Snare is really good here, actually. Wow, that's a great pickup. I don't feel comfortable tapping out for Gideon yet, but if we get 1 more mana, then I can go Gideon plus Spell Snare. 5 lands for our opponent is a lot. There's a lot of lands. So here, I'm actually going to start a fight over this Blessed Alliance. Target player gains 4 life. If they want to Skullcrack me, I can Spell Snare it. And if they want to do it again, then I can Mana Leak it. And that just puts our opponent in a pretty uncomfortable position. And that means we can just sort of like jam Gideon out there next turn, tick up, and then start beating down. So we're not going to take any damage we don't need to yet. Alright, but now we'll go down to 20. We'll throw Gideon out there with all of his loyalty. And what I like about Gideon is that it just kind of stops the burn opponent from like top teching a Goblin Guide and just beating down. Because mana leaking or cryptic commanding a Goblin Guide just feels so bad. So we could easily go +2, then -2. And if our opponent actually starts throwing burn spells at Gideon, like, we feel really strong. Our opponent has 4 cards in hand, like, even if they have 4 Boros Charms, you know, we're still at 16 life. Wow. If our opponent doesn't do anything... Oh my gosh. I'm really interested to see if our opponent doesn't have any instant speed burn. Like, what do they have? Oh my god, do they just have a bunch of lands? Oh, I am genuinely very curious what's going on my opponent's side here. It's kind of scary, honestly. Like, 4 cards, no instant speed burn. Like, what is it? But now we can keep up Mana Leak plus Cryptic Command and just start beating face. And which puts our opponent on a 2-turn clock here, basically. Like, do they have Path to Exile? Like, are they like... I don't think so. I think that would be ridiculous. Alright, now it's a 3-turn clock. Sorry, did I say 4-turn? Or did I say 3-turn last time? I meant, now it's a 3-turn clock. And we have a lot of counter magic to back it up. Now, Mana Leak is pretty dead, so we're going to try to snap off Mana Leak on whatever we can. We're definitely... yes, that's fine. Ah, Searing Blaze, of course. That's probably what they have. And if they have another one, that's when we'll use Mana Leak. Alright, nope. So Mana Leak is pretty dead right now, unfortunately. Goblin Guide, say okay. Take a hit here. And then we'll probably tick down with Gideon, just to avoid more life loss. Although, can we race it? Let's see what's on the top of our deck. And then we'll decide if we want to race it. Serum Visions, okay. That would put us down to... Yeah, I'm not a big fan of racing, to be honest. Although we don't have to make that decision right now, though. So let's go ahead and Serum Visions and see what we can draw before we freak out. See, like, we get a Path to Exile. I don't think we need another Gideon here. And we'll go ahead and put Path to Exile on top. And we'll go ahead and attack. Because as strong as Burn might be, it's going to be pretty hard for them to beat a 6/6. So we can even go like Cryptic Command. If they play a spell pre-combat, or right now, we can go... However, if it's a Magma Jet, like, I don't want to counter that. I definitely don't want to counter Magma Jets. Boros Charm. Yes, I do want to counter that. Oh, wow. Wow. Can I... Oh, no, I can't Mana Leak it. God, they're trying to trick me here. Counter target spell, draw a card. If they're burning another Boros Charm here, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to that Path to Exile that I'm not really worried about now. And just get use out of my Mana Leak while I can. And now our opponent has 1 card in hand, a Goblin Guide, and I'm at 14 life. and it's going to be very, very difficult for our opponent to win here. Rift Bolt. Me, sure. And next turn, if we don't have a better play, I mean, I might as well just Supreme Verdict this Goblin Guide. And make sure we can get our opponent dead. Spreading Seas, not great, but especially considering our opponent is flooded pretty hard. So it's not like we have this in, I mean, actually I think we do have this in the bag. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think our opponent can deal 9 damage to us over 2 cards in 2 turns. Because we can sweep up here with Verdict. And we don't need to play those fetches because there's no world in which we crack them, basically. That puts us dead to double Boros Charm. So we'll just do our best here. Alright, we took game 1, which is usually the harder one. We bring in Dispel, Negate, 2 Timely Reinforcements, 2 Celestial Purges, maybe Vendilion Click. I don't think so. They might be I mean, I don't know. They probably don't keep in Searing Blaze, but I don't feel comfortable bringing in Click. Same reasoning for not bringing in Spell Queller. Like, it's something that blocks and applies pressure, but we'll see if we have enough to take out first. So step 1. Probably want to take out Detention Sphere. It's just a bit too slow. As our Supreme Verdict, I want to keep 1 Verdict, but I don't want to rely on them and have all these 4 mana clunky spells in hand. Mana Leak, Negate, all very strong. All of our counters are going to be very, very strong in this game. We could probably cut 1 Gideon, just because it's pretty expensive. I don't think we're winning the game with Elspeth. I mean, we might be. What's better, Elspeth or Supreme Verdict? I mean, in that game, Elspeth would have been better. But it can also be played a lot earlier in case our opponent has a creature-heavy draw, you know? And I like having all this 1 mana removal. It really, really, really helps the early game. However, if we're bringing in Celestial Purges, maybe we don't need them? I'm going to cut an Elspeth. I think she's really slow. And if we made it that far, we're probably doing pretty well already. So basically just put all our resources into stabilizing, and I think we'll find a way to win at the end of the day. Either through massive life gain, or landing a Gideon and riding it to victory. I actually haven't seen Magma Jet being like a major player lately. Okay, so let's take a look at this hand. It's good against a burn-heavy hand, bad against a non-burn heavy hand. For example, like a creature hand, because we don't have any way to deal with creatures. I would like to have a bit more land. So what do we do with this hand? Like, it would be more appealing on the play. On the draw, I think I mulligan. And that's a bit better. Spreading Seas is actually really good, and at least we have a way to deal with the turn 1 burn creature. Whereas, we wouldn't really have a way to do that otherwise. Lava Spike, okay. Maybe that other hand would have been fine, but I didn't want to risk it, you know. And sometimes you just need to aggressively mulligan, and this hand I think is infinitely better than that other hand. In terms of how much mana we have, wow. Do we want to say that we'll find another land? Because we may want to go Snap Negate or Snap Celestial Purge eventually. But I'm going to say we'll find another land. We have a lot of lands in this deck, and there's no reason to freak out. Alright, opponent. Just double red right now. Another Lava Spike. Okay. Interesting. Right, see there's another colonnade off the top. Let's just... Oh, I probably should have... should have gone after the other land. Flames of the whatever card. Molten Rain. Oh, jeez. Alright, okay. I get it. Shoot. Alright, now I feel pretty bad for not keeping those lands. Alright, you got us. We're keeping up negate from now on. We're not gonna make a mistake. We're not gonna play loose. So let's just try to focus. Goblin Guide, sure. You want to get us some lands, old Gobbo? Old Gabbo. Come on, land off the top. Timely. Oh my God, timely reinforcements. They're like, uh-oh. Okay. I think we'll go ahead and just Celestial Purge it. Okay, now we can keep up negate. Like, where are there... Is this like, budget burn? This could be budget burn. And budget burn, yeah, that Spreading Seas there might have been a mistake, honestly. I haven't noticed many fetches from them. So we definitely don't want to jam timely reinforcements into open mana, and we definitely don't want to basically tap out for negate mana because of Molten Rain. So basically what we want to do is just say play go, play some lands. So this we're not locked in basically, which is unfortunate. We kind of want our opponent to tap out on their turn, that way we can resolve a timely reinforcement. What we could do is just run out a Snapcaster and start pressuring our opponent, but I think that might be a waste of a Snapcaster. Land? Land. Land is very good. Okay. Let's see if our opponent gets some lands going anytime soon. Because they seem to be just getting like a lot of Jace. Jace, is that worth tapping out for? I don't think so. We'll just play the pass go game and wait until we draw another land. What are you trying to do? Flames. That's a 4 damage spell. Yeah, no thank you. I'd rather not have to deal with that damage down the road. What I really want, though, is another land here. That way I can just cash in my timely reinforcements with negate backup. Because soon I won't have that. Oh! Mana Leak works too. Kind of just biding my time here. I think I'm going to go ahead and Mana Leak. I don't want my opponent to draw some more lands down the road. And then Mana Leak will be pretty dead against like their 1 mana spells. Whereas Negate is pretty live. Oh, Swifty. Oh, Swifty. And so what I could do here is actually flash in a Snapcaster Mage. And this will kind of force them to, if they want to keep their Monastery Swiftpeer alive, this will force them to either use a burn spell at my face, which would then let me resolve a timely reinforcement. Otherwise, it's just a 1-for-1 trade, and that's pretty good. Whatever, target Mana Leak. Say okay and block. And our opponent just lets us make the trade because, honestly, they can't tap out of Skullcrack mana. Or else, game's close to being over. Mana? Spell Snare. Spell Snare is also great. Yeah. I'll go ahead and Timely Reinforcements. Alright, we go up to 17. Our opponent still has 4 cards in hand, so it's not like we have this locked in, but we bought ourselves some time to hopefully hit some land drops. Yeah, our opponent, 5 cards in hand is a lot. Oof. Jeez, like that's really painful actually, because we really are relying on our lands right now. But that just could be their whole hand, like a bunch of Molten Rains, And I feel like we can beat that eventually, down the road, Lava Spike, is that worth negating? Yeah, I'll go ahead and negate that. Although they could play another land here and Molten Rain us, but... Land? Land! Let's just get a Jace on board and get some cards off of it finally. And if they throw Burn at it to finish it off, like I said, that's a fair trade, but we just want to reveal some lands, draw some cards. And we don't even have Cryptic mana, so I'm just going to go ahead and take some lands here. So now our opponent can chuck a bunch of burn spells at our face, but like we said, our opponent doesn't have white mana. Sure? Do you want to throw it at Jace or me? Jace. Honestly, that's a great trade. I just drew 2 cards, and they lost 1. And I'm at 15 with a Snap Timely in hand. Soon with the spell backup. So I think our opponent's going to have a rough time making it out of this. Yeah, that's going to be rough. Especially next turn, because I'm going to do that. That's going to put us to 18, and then we'll just have a clock on the board. Oh, whoops, right. We need blue mana for Snapcaster Mage. Go ahead and gain some more life. And just keep beating down as much as we can here. And our opponent concedes. So we gained a lot of life that game, but that's just what you got to do against Burn. And eventually there's going to be a breaking point where they just feel like they can't cast any spells. Or, I think our opponent still had some time here. I mean, it's a 10-turn clock, but we were drawing live. And our opponent maybe was cut off white on a budget build. So that's what happened there. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next round.